Hey guys, in this video we'll be reviewing The Witches, the 2020 movie. So what did you think of The Witches, David?
It was it wasn't bad. It was fun to watch, but a lot of stuff did change from the books that we did from the audiobooks and things like that.
Yeah, I reckon the spoiler-free review is it was kind of good, it was kind of bad, mostly kind of bad, but it was good kind of bad vibes.
It's not really the setting is pretty early on, so the setting changes too.
Yeah. So just the spoiler-free review is that it changes a lot from the book, and it's just weird. It's weird. It's very weird, but kind of enjoyable.
And they hit most of the important notes of the book. To be honest, they missed a few of the iconic lines for our family per se, but most of the beats were on track.
Yeah. So if we get into spoilers now, the main changes that the book was set in Norway and then England, right? As in his parents die in Norway and then he goes to England to this hotel with
his grandma's Norwegian.
And his grandma's Norwegian. This changed it to they're all American, deep South, African Americans.
Very American. It wasn't
very
just slightly American.
They were aggressive American vibes. Deep South African Americans in Alabama.
Yeah, or something.
And you're
eating chicken wings.
And they're eating and you're if I could think of a more opposite vibe, I'm what is the most opposite of Norway that I could think of?
Yeah,
Alabama.
It did get Americanified, and they changed the role of the grandma a little bit to be a bit more magical, rather than just.
Yeah, she had just
she was younger
food.
as well.
She was younger. I almost didn't even believe she could be a grandma yet. But
yeah.
I guess if you have kids young, but then there's weird voodoo vibes, she was making potions and shit.
Yeah, and it didn't really go anywhere. The only place that at one point they're trying to reverse engineer the mouse maker to see if they can turn the mice back into kids.
Oh yeah, and
which
it's
is in the audiobook, and it's part of her voodoo thing.
And then it just doesn't work, and you're okay.
Yeah, it's one throwaway scene.
And you're what was the point of this entire plot line?
Yeah, that could probably have gone, to be honest. The reasons for them going to the hotel are also a bit weird. She just does some voodoo stuff, and she's yes, the witches are here, which is fair.
Oh yeah, so the witches are after them and they flee to the hotel. It kind of makes the whole thing.
But then you think if she would know if there's witches around, because they go to the hotel with witches, so...
Yeah. But the thing as well is I think if we talk about some of the movie specific stuff, I reckon that the premise of the book, the whole idea is that witches are supposed to be subtle, anybody could be a witch.
Yeah.
And then in a show that the witches are just kind of obvious.
Yeah,
I'm
they're very obvious.
It's literally Joker vibes. You want to know how I got these scars?
They all have do I want to know if I got this? So I think that's just maybe for the younger audience to make it a bit more clear. But even then, I think kids probably figure it out, especially when they remove their wigs and stuff that.
I will say that if we just want to talk, what was her name?
The performances.
The performances. What's the main chick's name?
Anne Hathaway.
That was
she did good.
I respect that. I reckon the director walked in and was here's your crack. Just ham it up, and she did.
She did really well, and her voice delivery was on point, and her performance was good. But a lot of it is actually CGI'd as well, especially with her mouth.
Yes,
and
the CGI was good, inconsistent. Do you remember the cat?
Yeah, the cat. Some of the CGI is a bit weird, but it really with the witchy scenes did make you unsettled, which I guess is perfect.
Yeah, Uncanny Valley vibes. I was so deep in the Uncanny Valley
with the witches, but the cat, the cat looked
the cat was weird, and some of the rats. It's weird, actually. I wonder if they ran out of rat budget, because some of the rats look good, and some of the rats
the main mice were I can get by
and then the ones in the background, the back of the scene, you're that's a blob, bro.
With the zombie rats, the witches turn into.
Yeah, you're that is a blob. Good sir, you're
Yeah, I think they also, there is actually a final scene, which is completely non-book, right? Because the main Grand High Witch recognizes the grandma, which means she doesn't eat the pea soup. And then they have a final showdown in the room, which is satisfying, I guess.
It's kind of...
But they do this whole arm thing a little bit too much. She can just do spells, and she just keeps on doing that.
Oh my god, the arms! Dude, yeah. I was what are you telling me? Yeah, so in this movie, she could extend her arm, so she
very bone breaking.
But not in a good way, not an Elastigirl way, and a bone break way they go
And it was good for one scene, but then they reuse it for the final scene when she's the Grand High Witch, and she should be able to do anything, but she just goes around extending her arms.
Yeah, it's so bad as well, because the dramatic tension just gets extended so long, because if someone's 2 meters away from you, I would walk towards them and punch them, but the Grand High Witch, I would use my weird arm extension.
Yeah. But so overall, they do add some new stuff, which I guess is nice if, in some ways, if you've read the book and stuff, because you get to enjoy some new stuff. And they do have a lot of the old stuff, but they do miss a lot of they do the good remove your vigs bit, and they do that. Yeah, the one miss that for me is that they didn't do the whole mouse maker thing. One of the best parts of the book is her talking about the recipe and an alarm
all the ingredients
clock.
And shit.
An alarm clock set to 3 p.m. or whatever to make them delayed, and then getting the ingredients, and it's like some of
Scruntles
you, yeah,
eggs
some
and
of you
shit.
are too old to like go chasing after Scruntles eggs. Like, well, yeah, like those
Yeah,
are
yeah.
good lines, and those are completely gone. But
Yeah, and
then,
it's
like Vig's bit,
and it's weird as well because like you could argue I didn't have enough time for that because I wanted to keep it short because it's a short movie. That's something to note. But then you have these like weird
definitely
pointless
bits that they
seeds of like the voodoo
yeah.
and stuff, and you're like, well, oh, they also added an extra character. You know that female mouse?
Oh yeah.
Which I didn't necessarily have a problem with. I thought that was
I
fine.
thought that was quite cool actually. That was a good addition.
I thought that was fine, but it was just it's
It was a bit coincidental that she was like turned into a mouse.
Yeah, it just happened
I like
to
the
be.
witch who I guess was testing.
Yeah, that's
it,
actually
and
a
then she,
massive coincidence when you think about
it's
it.
a
That
big
mouse happened to be.
coinkydinks.
So if we want to get into like a more reviewy vibe, because we've just been chatting for a bit, but more like so plot wise, like just like forgetting the book, just to review the movie, right? Plot wise, it's a functional plot, right? So if we think about the plot, his parents get killed in a car crash. He goes and lives with his grandma. They get like harassed by witches. So they go to
a witch, and then
a witch.
she does
So they go to a
voodoo.
hotel. And she does voodoo. They go to a hotel where they get harassed by lots of witches,
Yeah.
and then they take them down using their own like powers, basically. And then there's a big showdown at the end when the main witch gets turned into a rat.
Yeah, the plotline is a whole lot more solid than Wonder Woman. Let's just say that.
Yeah, not
a lot
insane.
less of complicated movie and a far more well
So
contained.
if we think about just plot wise, it's just like a streamlined plot. You know where it's going at all times, basically.
It's like a 7 out of 10. Like,
yeah, it's
maybe
what it is.
6.5
It's a
or
kids
something.
movie plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like there's no twists and turns, but like you kind of know where you're going. You're kind of happy to go over.
And I think. Oh, one thing. Okay, we are still on the rewrite trim. The acting. Anne Hathaway owns it. She's really good. But, so the acting of pretty much everyone else.
Oh
Was
god,
very,
yeah. So Anne Hathaway's like good acting, like you
Really
hammed
good.
up this role,
Yeah.
and then the grandma is the grandma's on and off.
Yeah,
because
sometimes it's good. She like delivers her lines as fun.
and sometimes you feel like she's quite matrilineal, and you feel like she wants to like protect him, and then
a bit
sometimes
stony, and she's just.
and
like,
then sometimes
there's
there's just
emotionless
no
in this.
emotion, and
Yeah,
she's like interacting with her grandson, who she's supposed to care about a lot, and you're just like.
Yeah, and then with the grandson, there's obviously like child actor like.
And it wasn't too bad when he was interacting with adults. It wasn't too bad. But when he interacted with the actor for Bruno, the two child actors together, it was like painful. Like we were in the cinema together, and I just looked over at him and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, that's a moment. So the acting is like.
The acting is subpar.
To be honest, but then like Anne Hathaway, it's like a 5 out of 10 maybe, just because of purely Anne Hathaway's like.
Yeah,
strong
Anne
performance.
Hathaway like hams it up a lot. It's interesting because Anne Hathaway's performance isn't like classical good acting, and it almost is. You know, like theater shows where they like ham up the performance of people in the back can see. That's like
but
sort
that's
of
like what the book was.
yeah. It was very like
She was
over the top and
yeah.
like good.
So, it was that.
So the acting was good. The way the movie looked was kind of interesting because it actually like they were at the seaside and the movie was like because you expect the movie of witches to be kind of dark and like you know how like some people put like you watch a horror show and they literally put a filter on it.
I think it's kind of how it was good how they did it.
The
Nothing
movie
was overly like colorized or anything.
Yeah, the
And
movie just
the
looked.
hotel was actually how I imagined the hotel in the
Yeah,
book
like
as
a
well.
big,
It was
like,
just in
imperial-
like the States, but like
At
if
the beach, you know.
Yeah. If it was in like the UK, it would have been like exactly.
I
how
was actually
imagined
really
it in the
glad
book.
they decided to not put like the movie looked like if I were to go to a hotel and be shooting a movie about like I don't know like a comedy in a hotel, that's how it would have like the movie looked bright and light.
Yeah,
and
that was good. I think interesting mention. There were some like sort of like deeper messages. You know, they arrive to the hotel and they treat them a bit weirdly because they're
because they're black.
African-American.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So there are some like other things, but it's not too heavy-handed. It's like
yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's definitely there though, and it does sort of feel like it's not bad, but it does sort of feel a bit like it's like you had a story and you decided to like just kind of add some like
yeah, they changed it and then they delivered the message that they wanted to for the change. I think so. It was like
It's
okay.
fine.
It's like,
I wasn't
for a
against
kids
it.
movie. It's actually pretty good to like
yeah, and
flip that around.
it was relatively subtle as well because it wasn't like the guy was like stopped and says like oh my god you're black this is insane. You could just see like it was just like in fact actually that guy was probably one of the
for
better
the time
actors.
period actually.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it was good. It was like I didn't
Yeah,
mind
the
that.
hotel manager actor was actually pretty solid as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's actually something. So the hotel, Mr. Stringer, he's in the book as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But honestly, I actually reckon that's one of the things that improved from book to movie is Mr. Stringer is like whoever acted. I actually know that actor. I don't know who he is, but I've seen him before. He he did well. He
Yeah,
was
he-
like
he did well.
he like performed well, and like his lines were really funny. And you can see he's just like really like obsequious and subservient. But like the witches aren't having the Grand High Witch isn't having a bar of it. And it's just really funny. He's like I took the liberty.
garlic.
No garlic in the soup, like, which is so that was actually really good. Mr. Stringer was good. So that was actually a nice like sort of addition because
Yeah.
I felt like he brought more to the character than was given to him.
Yeah,
Like-
I think
like in the book.
overall it was like a solid 7 out of 10. If you're like a kid and you're going like
Yeah.
family movie wise, like if you're sitting down with the boys and like
Oh yeah,
it's like you're shifting down to like a 5.
yeah.
out of
I would
10.
say that if you go watch this with like your like 6 to 14-year-old child, 6 to like 12-year-old child, it's a 7 out of 10. If you go watch it like on your own, it's like a 5.5 out of 10. Like
yeah.
I also feel like some of the CGI was like like weird, and it was just a bit.
But
like,
I think they were. It was a low budget movie, I assume, and they probably spent quite a lot just getting like Anne Hathaway, to be honest.
yeah, they probably spent half their budget on it.
Yeah, so I think the CGI wasn't like awful considering the like budget of the movie.
No, it wasn't, but it was just one of those things where you because you're so used now to like a ridiculously good CGI that when you see bad CGI, you're like, it almost takes you out of the movie because you're like, oh, that's bad CGI.
Yeah, you do know. So it looks a little bit like movies from a few years ago. Like the mice also are clearly not real because they make them like very anamorphic and like human-like, which is
you do
good because
remember,
they're human mice. But like it's very like
you know those books, you know those Animorph books. That, you know, where they have like the people go, that's literally what they look like. They look like they're like fucked up along the genetic path between like human and mice. And that's probably what they were going for.
Yeah,
but like,
it was like one stage off from the like pure mouse.
Pure mouse. Yeah, I don't know. But so if we just want to like conclude the review here, like this movie is like it's very up and down. It's super up and down because some stuff is really good. Like the really big pros are like Anne Hathaway's performance has got like a sort of solid plot. And like it's an interesting concept, you know, like
for what it is, like a book adaptation with like lowest budget.
I don't know if it did have a lowest budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to like look at, but it's solid. Whereas like if you compare it to something like Wonder Woman, which we just watched, you know, super high budget and barely sticks the landing as well. It's so it's definitely. But then like for the negatives are definitely there. The acting is poor. The it's not a good adaptation of the book, which, you know, maybe you haven't read the book, so who really gives a fuck? But it's not a good adaptation of the book necessarily. It's not faithful, but it's solid.
And like the CGI is quite poor, and it like pulls you out a bit. And like it also was just sort of missing a certain like je ne sais quoi. Like I found myself checking the time a couple of times during the movie, which is never a good sign because it was a short movie. It wasn't only an hour and a half long, but it felt longer and it dragged.
I passed the time just by looking at you, and then
whenever it was a funny. So it was just one of those movies where it's like it was just missing that like you know, where some movies like even if they're kind of bad, you're like into it, you know, and you're like watching and you're like having a good time. Whereas this movie was just sort of missing that like thing. Is any closing remarks?
No, I think.
Sweet. Well, thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.